Now Farrar tries to give him some breathing room, and he's going to take a shot deep downfield, and open is Bernard Berrien, and the former Bear will go 99 yards for a touchdown.
Manning on 3rd and 10. He fires, and the catch is made by Cruz, who breaks free. One man to beat. Victor Cruz down the sideline. 99 yards from Manning to Cruz.
Wes Welker pulling away, and he ties an NFL record with a 99-yard touchdown.
Andre Davis, and Davis will score 99 yards. Wow.
Hello and welcome to 99 Yards, American football for UK fans. I'm your host Liz Fox, and I am joined by Jonathan Payton and Kadeen Simmons. How is everyone this week?
Good, thanks, Liz. Just finished catching up on the Seahawks-Falcons Monday night game, which was a bit of a good one. So
yeah, let's not talk about that.
Yeah, yeah, it was good. It was good.
I'm still ill technically, but I can't miss a podcast 2 weeks in a row. So
what does technically ill mean? What does technically mean?
That when I wake up, I am just full of snot in both my throat and my nose. And then, I didn't really need to tell you that. Just like, take my word for it, I'm actually kind of ill. So
you are technically ill. Okay.
Yes.
Well, thanks for that.
You're welcome.
So let's get started. In this week's podcast, we'll be talking about the Philadelphia Eagles and whether they are legit Super Bowl contenders, and head coaches that really ought to move on from their teams. But first, we need to talk about the article that Jono wrote for the NFL Go UK website that caused quite the storm on social media. Now, for those who haven't seen it, Jono wrote an article titled American Football Fans Forced to Watch a Whole American Football Game. It was based on the fact that people were kicking off over there being no red zone until 8 p.m. on Sunday, which, by the way, was incorrect. It was on red button in standard definition. Fine, I get it, you want to see it in high definition, but honestly, some of the reactions I saw on Twitter this Sunday were ridiculous. So when Jono asked me if he could write a Daily Mash-style article, I was well up for it. Even upon reading it, I found it funny. Slightly cheeky, yes, but certainly no harm. However, it really seems you touched the nerve, didn't you, Jono?
Yeah, a little bit with some people. Some people quite liked it. I just wanted to take a bit of fun at the situation because, you know, if you think about it, we've come a long way in 10 years, or 15 years, say, when you were just getting one game a week on Sky, and then you got 2 games. You know, and they kept getting more and more games on a Sunday. And then Red Zone came along about 5 or 6 years ago, and they tried to crowbar it into their main coverage, and that didn't really work. And then they started putting on the red button, and only since last year we've had it on a HD channel. It's sort of quite funny how people get used to being able to access sort of like this premium content from the States every Sunday, and then suddenly it's sort of taken away to some degree, and there's just this rage on social media about it, even though you've got potentially one of the best games so far this season on another Sky Sports channel. And I understand, you know, Sky is expensive. I think I pay £80, £90 a month. And you look at that bill every month, you go, is that really value for money? And so, you know, it's not too much to ask, I suppose, that you get NFL on 2 HD channels on a Sunday night every week, especially and that channel lineup they've done this year, I think, really doesn't make a lot of sense when you've got that main event channel, which only ever simulcasts another one of their named sports channels. So I think that ties them in knots as well. You know, there was no reason why they had darts on 2 channels that night, and obviously they had the tennis on Sky Sports Mix, and that was also on BBC Two as well. So that probably infuriated some other people. But it's just to poke a bit of fun, you know, about the sort of seriousness that some fans have around this. And I think, you know, the NFL fan base is very mobile, and I think NFL UK play on that a lot by, you know, saying there's 600,000 fans in Regent Street, or, you know, around the NFL podcast must think it's the number one sport in the UK, you know, because everyone's so chatty. You know, it's such an upwardly mobile fan base. The sort of typical fan you get is sort of a bit geeky, but sort of probably higher than your average educationally, you know, to a higher standard than sort of your average person, and probably more social media savvy. And so, you know, you do get a lot of chat around this sport, more so in proportion to many other sports. But yeah, it's just a bit of fun, really. And sorry, Gideon, I'm just going to keep ranting on.
No.
Go on.
You mentioned on social media, and I think that plays a massive part in people why they like Red Zone so much. It's something that people have been kind of speculating for a few years now, but people don't take in information like they used to. So I think it seems like the thought of sitting down for 2.5, 3 hours and watching one game seems just really annoy people these days, where it's like, well, that's how we used to take in NFL games. So once you give them Red Pass and, there's all action, all, glitz and glamour, people kind of just used to it, and they've actually forgotten, like your article says, that the NFL is sometimes 3 and out. Like, these players, they're called guards, in the red zone, you don't really see them too much because it's always bombs downfield and 60-yard runs and, oh my days, that J train's going off again. It's like, well, no, sometimes you're going to get a really, really boring game, and sometimes you have to sit through it, deal with it, and okay, so you can't get red zone for 1 week. You still get the actual sport. I don't understand why everyone kicked up a massive fuss, and yeah, I don't understand why everyone got really upset by the article. I loved it. I found it really, really funny.
It's a bit of a commentary about, sort of how we consume media and sport. The idea of a 5-day test match, for millennials, which I know both you two are, and I've missed that boat slightly. It's the whole sort of 2020 thing, isn't it? It's like, I haven't got time to sit here and watch the nuance of it, and of a 3-yard run followed by a 1-yard run, but seeing them set up, or seeing a bowler bowling down just off stump time and time again, just waiting for the batsman to sort of nick it to first or second slip. Everyone wants fours, everyone wants sixes. So it's sort of a bit of a commentary on, it's American football time. It's 6 o'clock. Show me touchdowns by wide receivers. Show me big plays. Bang, 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 and it is fun and it's great entertainment. And if you look at the ratings, more people watch Red Zone than the live game on Sky now. It's sort of like the proportion of people watching Red Zone is going up and up and up compared to the live game. And you sort of wonder, what is the NFL happy with that? That more people are going to start watching Red Zone because that's 6.5 hours without being able to advertise against. And in this country, it doesn't really matter so much because the numbers are so small that I don't believe Sky get much money for their advertising anyway. But if the same thing happens in the States, how many people start watching Red Zone and watch less of the live games before it becomes a problem where the networks don't think the value of their rights are reducing because people just want to watch it catch the highlights on YouTube or watch Red Zone and stuff. They're not interested in sitting there watching adverts to then come back to the game to watch a 3 and out, to watch some more adverts. It's just interesting times.
I think part of the fun of watching the full game is kind of seeing how things develop, seeing how, a run on first down sets up a pass on second down, or, all these small intricacies which you don't see in Red Zone. That's part of the reason I enjoy it anyway, See, especially, for watching someone like Tom Brady and Bill Belichick get to work and how they're basically playing the long game, this small dump off is to set up for something, in a third or fourth quarter when they really need it. So, but again, if you watch Red Zone, you don't see that because you don't see the small dumps off. And it's, it's probably why everyone, it was a good cricket analogy because I can't stand cricket at all. And obviously the Ashes are starting. I honestly don't care about it outside of me covering for work.
You're the sports editor of a national newspaper.
I just said, outside covering it for work, I don't actually care. Now, obviously, I've been paying attention to it, but, you won't. I'm not staying up until, 11 o'clock tomorrow night? Yeah. Not from it. But anyway, so NFL Red Zone. It's the same way that people, when they watch Game Pass on a Monday morning, they want the condensed version. They don't have time, which I kind of understand it on your commute to work. But 6 o'clock on a Sunday, the game's kicking off. Like, you're there for the next 3, 6, 9 hours. Just watch the full game, especially if your team are playing. If your team are on Sky, I don't understand why you watch Red Zone for, because you're missing your team. It makes no sense to me.
I fight against it because there's part of me that does just want to watch Red Zone because it's just a fun, great, entertaining watch. But I sort of find myself fighting against wanting to watch it. So sort of my Sunday viewing starts at 7:30 because I've got kids, so once they've gone to bed, then I wind back to the Jets game, which is normally at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Watch the Jets game, like fast forwarding through adverts, but watch the whole Jet game. Then I put on Red Zone, cover my hand across the screen so I don't ruin anything. Wind back to about 8:30 on Red Zone, and then watch like the last half hour, 40 minutes of Red Zone. That's sort of the best part of the week on Red Zone. And then move on to like a 9 o'clock, 9:25 game. But so I totally understand the appeal of it, but it's something I sort of try and fight against because I know. Because the thing about Red Zone is I just don't understand how you can just watch Red Zone and then have that much opinion about the game beyond, oh, he's quite good at catching the ball. That was a great touchdown. You know, just you don't see enough of the games to sort of really know what's going on.
I think it's a lot to do with your attention span. So my fiance Barrett, he watches Red Zone religiously. He loves watching it. He basically loves all the action. But I don't necessarily feel that just because he watches Red Zone doesn't mean that he doesn't have an opinion on the game. I get what you mean in that, you know, he only sees part of it, so what can you say? But yeah, in our household, we are very much a Red Zone house. I would like to watch more of the game action, see what's going on, how the plays are going. But yeah, I think it's down to the attention span.
So would he watch 49ers?
No, he would watch Red Zone. Yeah, he would watch Red Zone.
Really? Wow.
I don't get that. I'm sorry, but like, I honestly don't understand that.
But is he a fantasy man as well? Is he sort of like...
He is. He's big into his fantasy football, so maybe that's the other reason. I don't know. I'll have to ask him.
Okay then, but then, you know, that's like not watching the football to only watch match of the day.
See, he will actually watch a United game and other football, which I will obviously find boring and annoying, but yeah. But then he spends his time on the phone anyway, so it's an attention span thing again, but yeah, he does generally watch a full game of football. And I think if it was a really, really good game, then he would watch the Sky coverage. I think he also finds some of the presenters a little bit annoying, one in particular. I think that's the other reason. If it was Jeff on it, then he would love it and he'll watch it. And same as with Sean Gale, he likes that as well. But I think it's just he hates the adverts, he hates the little chit chat in between.
But I love that.
I quite like that.
I love
reviewing
that
every
because,
play.
You know, because again, it's maybe it's just because the insight and analysis that you get. Now, obviously, having it on Sky, you know, the people you get probably aren't as good as the ones you get on Game Pass or, you know, on the NFL Network and stuff like that. But unless you are you're Jono, like a 30, 40-year veteran, and yes, I'm calling you an old man right now.
Oh, enough of 40. Enough of 40 thing.
I'm offended. Yeah, unless you know everything, you know, it's small stuff you learn from the presenters and stuff like that, which, to me, you learn more about the game.
I think we're a bit harsh on the UK guys. Like, some of the American guys are awful. You know, Deion Sanders or...
he's awful.
You know, just sort of big mouth, very little interesting conversation going on there. But yeah, that's quite funny.
Well done. And I must say, if you haven't checked out the article, definitely check it because it's really funny.
I just think Red Zone to me, like I don't judge anyone for watching Red Zone because it's just so it is appealing and it is brilliant to watch. But to me, it's a bit like going to the cinema and going, I can't be bothered to sit through a whole film. Can you put all 10 films on simultaneously and show me just all the car chases, fight scenes, sex scenes, you know, all the exciting scenes, and if they happen at the same time, just quad box it or something. and so you'd come out of it going, well, I think I know what happened in every film. I know the big things, like he killed him, they had sex, you know, there was a brilliant car chase, he got shot, but you sort of wouldn't know why it happened, but you just know what had happened.
But then people listen to podcasts like ×2 speed. And I'm just like, why would you do that?
They don't.
Like, no, seriously, it's an actual thing.
It is actually a thing on iTunes.
No.
Yes.
People just need to slow down.
It's like, but the thing is, like, you're just listening to chipmunks at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So why would you do it for? Like, it makes no sense to me. But again, yeah, maybe
each to their own, isn't it? Everyone's got their own kind of way of watching things. So yeah, I like Red Zone. Yeah, I think the main thing that made me laugh the most about Sunday was just the fact that people were kicking off about it not being on till 8 o'clock when it was already on. That was the main thing that made me think people were ridiculous. Anyhow, let's get on with the show.
Okay.
So it was mentioned on Twitter earlier today that after the Bears' final game last season, Alshon Jeffrey said, "I guarantee you we're going to win the Super Bowl next year." Asked about that statement today, Jeffrey said with a smile, "I never said a team though." Obviously he's with the Eagles now, who are looking incredible. They're 9-1 and leading in the NFC East. There are just 6 games left in the regular season, and from what I can see, there are no games that they should be overly concerned about. Will Eagles be at the Super Bowl come February?
I really want to say no, but again, I'm a really petty, bitter person, and all these Eagles fans have come out of nowhere. I don't know if it's just me, but I barely knew any Eagles fans until this season, and they started winning. And I was like,
I saw
go
an
Eagles!
I saw an Eagles jumper at Surbiton Station on Monday, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? So that's something come out of the woodwork from.
Exactly. It's like, again, sorry to kind of cross sports, but it's like when you see someone who's a Man City fan now, it's like, you didn't exist 2-3 years ago. Why have you come up now? So,
said by a bitter Man U fan.
I've been a Man United fan for the last 28 years. Don't even start this.
You don't help the stereotype, though.
Listen.
That real Manchester accent. You not hear it?
Yeah, it's Liz's accent. Can't you hear it? But, no. Will they win the Super Bowl? I don't think so. I think while they're playing so well right now, again, you look at last season and how well the Cowboys are playing, and everyone's like, oh my days, they're surely going to win with Dak and Zeke and this amazing O-line and etc., etc., etc. And I'm not wishing injury or bad luck against anyone on the Eagles team, but when you come up into playoffs and you're playing teams who have been there, year in, year out, whether the Seahawks get there, but, it's a completely different ball game. And while everyone's looking totally fine now, come playoff time, come January football, stakes are higher, and all it takes is, one interception, and that's it. So while it's all 9-1 now and J Train and all that kind of crap, I'm not ready to hand them the Super Bowl just quite yet.
Yeah, but you say people, other teams have been there, seen it and stuff, but the NFC is top heavy with quite green around the ear teams and players. Vikings, Rams, most of that Saints team, bar Breeze. For all of them going into the postseason is going to be sort of quite an experience. You've got Panthers and Falcons sniffing around in the wild card spaces at the moment. It's just hard to see. They've coped with injuries pretty well so far. Their left tackle went down, the middle linebacker went down, haven't really missed a beat there. And unlike the Cowboys last year, you always felt were a little bit soft on defense. And then they came across Rodgers, who just pulls that team along with him and beat them. Sunday night, the Eagles' offense wasn't getting anything done in the first half. But the defense is there to hold the game, within reach, so that when they can make adjustments, and that running game looked amazing on Sunday. They've got a 4-strong backfield. It just feels like they've got weapons and they've got strength throughout the team. And the same with the Vikings. Defensively, the Vikings, there probably isn't a stronger defense from secondary to linebackers to the defensive line. I think it's almost impossible to know which one of those NFC teams is going to get to the Super Bowl. And I think home field advantage is going to be huge as well, which is why that Vikings-Rams game was a massive win for the Vikings. And they're all playing each other as well, aren't they? The Saints are playing Rams this weekend.
Yeah.
And actually, the lucky thing for the Eagles is they don't really play any of those beyond the Rams. If the Seahawks start falling away, Cowboys, by the time they play them the last game of the season, they'll have Ezekiel Elliott back. But they've got the Raiders. They're not pulling up any trees at the moment. They've got the Giants still. They've got the Bears. The Eagles could sew up home field advantage potentially, which will be a massive advantage for them on the way to the Super Bowl. You can't call it, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Eagles there at all.
I would still pick. I don't know. I just think the Vikings could shut down Carson Wentz and the brilliant run game. I don't know. I'm just, again, maybe because I'm bitter and petty, and I'm like, all these Eagles fans come out of nowhere. It's like, you know what? Kind of, I want to see you get put in your place. That'd be brilliant for me. Which isn't very nice, I guess. But at the same time, I'm a bit like, well, we'll shut them up, and I'm like, ha ha, very funny. But it's probably said more about me than
It does.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. But no, I think again, well done, because it's an absolute brilliant season, and I think they were saying that the 4 leaders of the NFC divisions, none of them made it to the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
So it shows how they've all improved and stuff like that. And Carson Wentz, absolutely brilliant. I keep saying that he's been amazing, but I don't know. I still think that they're gonna come down to earth. Probably not until the playoffs. Again, like kind of like the Falcons last season. But
I think whoever has home field advantage gets to the Super Bowl. I think the Saints, the Eagles, the Vikings, 3 big home field advantages come January. I think whoever can top out number 1 seed is odds on favourite to get to the Super Bowl.
But I think so. I think between the Vikings and the Eagles, I think the Vikings, like I said, can shut down the Eagles. And between the Saints and the Eagles, I think if it comes to a shootout, I would always pick Drew Brees. And to be fair, I'm probably going to get a bunch of Eagles fans in my Twitter mentions, calling me all names under the sun, like Adam Crafton got on Saturday evening. Do you guys know who Adam Crafton is, by the way?
No.
I think so. Is he an American guy?
No. Sorry. So he's a Daily Mail journalist. He's the one that
I don't follow Daily Mail.
Arsenal Tottenham mixed 11 over the weekend.
Oh wait, is this the guy that I do think I know who you're on about?
Yeah. So Arsenal Spurs mixed 11. He picked all Tottenham players, and obviously when Arsenal won, they sent him a GIF of Mesut Ozil sipping tea, and Arsenal fans went mental, jumped in these mentions, and basically anti-Semitic messages, death threats, homophobic messages, to the point where he kind of like blamed Arsenal when I had to delete the tweet, and there was this massive argument Saturday night as to whether Arsenal should have done this. Anyway, again, off topic, NFL. So yeah, if any Eagles fans want to have a go at me on Twitter, it's Academe Simmons. I don't care. I don't like your team right now. You're really annoying me, and the sooner you start losing, the better, because I'll be happy.
Haters gone hate.
Yeah, but you're a Dolphins fan. What's the Dolphins-Eagles rivalry? Is it a whole J.J. thing?
I don't like J.J. I never liked J.J. I didn't know. When he left, I was like, okay, whatever. I called him leaving. But
he has landed on his feet.
Yeah.
Like, he's just getting through. He's walking through motorways. Running through motorways, like that offensive line, giving him the biggest holes you can think of.
But again, and sorry to bring this back to Dolphins, like stats have shown that since Ajayi has left, we're running the ball better. So it's one of those rare trades where everyone's happy. The Eagles got an amazing running back who's doing really well, and the Dolphins' run game has actually improved, which, to be fair, couldn't get worse under Ajayi. So I have no resentment towards the guy. Go and do really, really well. Just get your fans off my Twitter. Like, you're really, really annoying me right now. I'm a really bitter person. Wow.
We are a delightful, chirpy podcast today.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys.
So, one of the areas that fans are frustrated with at the moment is head coaches. And many are saying that it's time to move on to the likes of Marvin Lewis at Bengals, Pete Carroll of Seahawks, and Hugh Jackson for Browns. Seems that many teams need a shake-up. What are your thoughts on this?
Pete Carroll, really? I mean, are people really saying that? They've still got a winning record. They've had loads of injuries. This is absurd. It's just ridiculous.
Duncan this morning.
Yeah, I did see some of his comments. You know, I think Pete Carroll can have a bit of a pass. I mean, the offense still is very stop and start and inconsistent, and then sort of masked by Russell Wilson's brilliance. And maybe they need to have a shake-up, especially on the offense, because there's just no rhythm to that offense ever. You know, whether it's the player acquisitions, whether it's the GM putting it together, or whether it's Darrell Bevel's offensive schemes. You know, you would think, if you know you've got a weak offensive line, that you'd come out and design a lot of quick passing, 2-step drop, 4-yard passes, and it just doesn't seem capable of even thinking about doing that. You know, every pass is a drop back or standing in the pocket for 2 or 3 seconds, and by then the offensive line's getting overrun. So that might help the Seahawks, and it's hard to be critical of their defense when they've had so many injuries. You know, they've not really been at it all season, having everyone fit. But the Bengals, Marvin Lewis, Mike Brown's a notorious sort of like slow mover in terms of like making any radical changes and stuff, and he's like notoriously tight with his money, etc. So whether he makes a move now, I think Lewis is down to his last year or two, isn't he, of his contract. But just the whole culture and the Bengals thing feels like it's run its course with Lewis. It does feel like a fresh up there. And Hugh Jackson at the Browns, I mean, again, is this not more of a GM thing, or like the whole sort of philosophy of the club? You know, does Moneyball ever work in NFL? Has that ever been proven? You know, they missed out on Wentz. They missed out on Deshaun Watson. Or that's more understandable because a lot of people thought he wasn't a first-round pick or wouldn't be ready straight away, but everyone thought Wentz would be a franchise quarterback. You know, they've got some nice players on that roster, and you saw at Twickenham, you know, actually the Browns got on top of the Vikings and stayed with them because of some good scheming by Hugh Jackson. You know, they came out, they turned the ball over, first drive, no huddle, straight down the field, and they scored a touchdown. You know, Hugh Jackson is a good offensive coach. Whether that makes him a good head coach overall, I don't know. He had some fairly all right times at the Raiders, but it's easy to moan and criticise coaches and head coaches, isn't it? But Marvin Lewis, yes. Pete Carroll, no. Hugh Jackson, maybe. But I think that whole regime is going to come in for some criticism as they start winning, or show signs of some serious improvement soon.
Yeah, I think I can understand the Seahawks fans' frustration in the sense that this was meant to be like an absolute dynasty team, and while it kind of is, there's still so much lacking, if that makes sense. Like, it's that typical, everyone can see the problems apart from the people actually in charge. Like, the O-line for years has been awful. The run game, like, there is no run game there because the O-line aren't creating holes. Most plays are down to the brilliance of Russell Wilson and not actually, scheme-wise, if that makes sense. The defense has stayed the same, it's absolutely brilliant. But I kind of, to me, it feels like fans are just more, they kind of want Carroll to go now before he ruins his legacy. And it's like, well, while we still love you, leave before we hate you and then demand you leave. It could be one of the things where once he's gone, they'll realise what they had, but I think they'll deal with that once that happens.
It's crazy. The Seahawks hung pretty well with the Falcons yesterday, and obviously Carroll had that weird brain block where he, they went for a fake field goal at the end of the second quarter, and ended up just getting demolished behind the line, and ended up losing by 3 points. So I sort of get the criticism of Carroll at the moment, but I sort of see the Seahawks, Broncos, and the Giants are built similarly, and they all sort of fall apart in the same way. In that the whole team starts with the secondary, and if the secondary is strong, it sort of moves through the team into the defense to linebackers' defensive line, who can then get pressure on the quarterback. Which then puts and the special teams are really important to these franchises as well. And so if that's all working, and your special teams is then putting your offense in a good field position, then suddenly the whole thing works and you can win. As soon as the secondary starts to weaken for whatever reason, injuries or disciplinary problems with the Giants and stuff, it all sort of collapses in on itself. And the Seahawks, that Legion of Boom still is really high quality when they're all on the field together. But as soon as one piece is taken out of that, and you saw it last year when I think it was Dominic Rodgers-Camarati got injured for the Giants against the Packers in the playoffs, and that the secondary just fell apart. Suddenly they were holding Rodgers in check. As soon as one piece was taken out of it, the weakness starts to show, and they just didn't really have a chance in that game anymore because they just couldn't lock down. And I'd suggest it'd be the same with the Jaguars. They're sort of like the new Seahawks in a way. They've built the secondary. That is the strength of the team, and then it runs through the team from that, the secondary to linebackers and the defensive line, then getting sacks. The special teams are built to put the offense in a position to give them short fields and to get cheap and easy points.
Yeah.
And at the moment, it's working for them. As soon as that strength weakens, that secondary weakens, the whole team and franchise starts to fill in itself because it's suddenly getting longer fields. Suddenly Trevor Siemian's starting every offensive drive on his 15-yard line instead of like the 40. And same with the Seahawks as well.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the Jags. Obviously, they're kind of built from a Pete Carroll graduate, if that makes sense. So you can see why it works and stuff like that. But I think I kind of didn't talk about the Bengals. I can understand why the Bengals need to make a change because that's completely stagnated now. It's like even when they get to the playoffs, they're going to lose their first game. It doesn't matter. Rest of us and all of that kind of stuff. The Browns, I actually think I wouldn't say he deserves to stay, but I honestly think no matter who is actually there, they're going to lose games. Like they actually have no luck whatsoever. They hung with the Jags on Sunday, and it's one of those really rare situations where they have the ball with 1:40 left, and if they score a touchdown, they win. And I tweeted, Kaiser be clutch now, and then they lost the ball, and I was like, okay, didn't mean to jinx you, but I think it's more with the Browns. Sashi needs to go, and they need a new front office because, again, they need. I don't know. I think like John said, Hugh is still a good offensive. I wouldn't say mastermind, but he knows what he's doing there. That defense is really, really good. Considering how bad the rest of the team is, if that makes sense. They lost Emmanuel Ogba, but there's still pieces. Myles Garrett looks an absolute amazing find. They just need, that one bit of luck to win a game. I actually think they'll win a game this year. I don't know against who, but I still think they'll win a game this year. But getting rid of Jackson means bringing in someone else, which means new players, new schemes, and you can't win that way because the new person the players they've got now might not be fit for the new coach. So what? You can't get rid of everyone again. It's not going to work. So I think Cavill stays, Jackson stays, and Lewis goes.
I nearly had a Kadeem moment of breaking news then. And I saw Marvin Lewis trending on Twitter. And I reread it and I was like, I know Martin Lewis. That must be the expert bloke. Oh, no. Maybe he should take over the Bengals.
I think I'd take over the Bengals. If anyone lets me. But, Liz, what do you think?
Well, I'm a little bit intrigued about this Martin Lewis situation now, but...
Breaking news! I have breaking news.
I don't know, I think it's a tough one. I think, the situation of people saying that maybe it's time for Pete Carroll to move on, I think it's maybe a little bit harsh. Again, teams go through these things, and I don't think it's fair always to blame the head coach. I do think most of the time it's down to players, and I feel that about a lot of sports when it comes to this kind of situation. So yeah, I guess we shall see how the rest of the season plays out.
And teams go in cycles as well, and the Seahawks are, it's sort of coming to an end of that first Seahawks team really.
Yeah.
That cycle, they're getting injured a lot at the moment, and Michael Bennett's not quite the force he was. Boy Wagner's still great, but the whole Legion of Boom thing. Is Sherman going to be there next year? It's that sort of
Maxwell. Why would you do that for?
That's another Dolphins Eagles player.
Again, hence why I'm saying he's awful.
But it's sort of that period where they're sort of transitioning maybe to a new, and Sheldon Richardson's not been maybe as good as people hoped he was going to be this year either. But the Seahawks are a little bit of transition, and they probably do need a bit of rebuilding. And there's no reason why I don't think Pete Carroll should be able to see that through. It's just natural that there's going to be, because they're going to fall off a bit, and newer teams like the Jaguars and stuff are going to take their ground. And just a quick stat: when the Seahawks were going through their, their Legion of Boom, their sort of great period, I think for like 2 years, like 2012, 2013 maybe, they were giving up a 63 passer rating, and the Jaguars this season are giving up a 64 passer rating. So maybe they played worse quarterbacks, but it's quite interesting. Sort of like the Jaguars have become, ironically, after Gus Bradley left, the Jaguars are becoming like sort of like the AFC East version, well, not literally AFC East, but the Eastern AFC version of the Seahawks.
Yeah. So I had a bit of breaking news. Paxton Lynch has been named a starter for the Broncos this weekend.
Got to see what he can do.
Do you really?
Yes. Yeah. You can't judge Paxton Lynch yet, surely.
Actually, do you know what? I think, no, you're right. I take that back, because there's a lot of people who, after one season, will like to call someone a bust. You look at what people said about Jared Goff last year, Carson Wentz towards the end of the year, Dante Fowler. Sometimes it takes players, multiple seasons to get it right. And
it's all about the coaching with these guys as well. It really is.
Of course, 100%.
Isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Just see what McVay's done. It really is. Which sort of, it's sort of funny to see, coaches bemoan, the Bills scrapping around with their quarterbacks, and other teams like the Rams. McVay takes a quarterback who was looking like he might end up a bust last year, and sort of completely turns the offense around, and is coaching him brilliantly and scheming, for all his strengths. So it'll be interesting to see what Paxton Lynch can do. Who have they got?
I should know that, because we looked at it earlier and I completely forgot. I blame Liz.
Don't blame me.
Why? We should know this. I have it on my screen right now if I can find the Broncos. They've got the Raiders.
Oh, battle of the disappointing teams.
Definitely. No, the Raiders have been awful.
I mean, if Paxton Lynch wanted the secondary to go up against to start off this season, you couldn't wish for a worse one than the Raiders.
The Dolphins
absolutely stunk it out.
The Dolphins.
It's the Dolphins.
No. They're playing the Raiders, but if you want a really easy secondary, play the Dolphins.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah. But actually, I kind of want the Broncos to lose, because their head coach is a former Seahawks defensive coach, and, he was awful with us last year. He's made the no-fly zone awful, so, blame him.
Coaching again. Yeah, they really do miss Wade Phillips. That was always going to be a massive loss for the Broncos.
Yeah, definitely.
So this Thursday, it's Thanksgiving football. Some of the NFL Glory team are going to be heading down to the Hippodrome in London if anyone wants to go along and see them there. I will be at home in Manchester, but who knows, maybe one day I'll make the London trip. Anyhow, the Thanksgiving games start with Vikings at Lions, Chargers at Cowboys, and finally Giants at Redskins. Will you be tuning into any of these? Which game are you most looking forward to?
I will be at the Hippodrome, so I think we're meeting at 8 o'clock after I finish work, and I think Shona has stuff to do, and Jenna as well, so probably starting with the 8 o'clock game. Yeah, that's it, pretty much, really.
Is there an 8 o'clock game? Which one's that? Doesn't the Vikings line start at 5:30, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it does. So actually, it's probably going to be about 8:30.
Yeah, 8:30, 9. I think the Chargers Cowboys
won.
The Chargers Cowboys won for me, because it's almost like winner takes all. Because Cowboys lose this, they're going to be seriously out of the running in the NFC. And the Chargers are sneaky interesting, because they've lost 2 or 3 heartbreaking games this year, and yet they're still sniffing around in that AFC wildcard race, which is not a race of the greatest teams in the world. and that sort of opens the door for someone like the Chargers, who have got some talent in a lot of positions and haven't really been out of that many games this season. So I'm really interested to see that, and just how Jason Garrett can try and coach this Cowboys team that's just fallen apart just because they've lost their starting running back, left tackle, and middle linebacker. And I've got a feeling that the Chargers might do it, which will only make Jerry Jones angrier. And then link to that, the Giants and Redskins is the Thursday night game, which is a bit of a stinker maybe because the Giants just have imploded this year. But the Redskins, again, if the Redskins were in the AFC, they'd be third or fourth seed at the moment. The Redskins, what I've watched them this year, have been really competitive. They've got some really good players and are a well coached team. But they're 4-6 and they can't lose another game. If the other, I don't think 9-7 is going to get you into the playoffs this year in the NFC. So this is a must-win game for the Redskins. It's must-win for the rest of the season. So I think that's interesting as well.
Okay, the Giants won over the week. The Giants won over the weekend, but my word, that's a really bad team.
Yeah, the Redskins are coming for heartbreaker in New Orleans. So
yeah, but the thing is, and this is that awkward situation where the Giants know that Ben McAdoo is gone next year. Do they just kind of tank the rest of the season and try and get a really high draft pick, or do they start winning pointless games to get a mid-round pick and end up with no quarterback and no running back?
Good question.
If I were the Giants, I'm tanking. You have nothing left to play for. Try and get a top 5 pick and draft a quarterback. Although in saying that, they could probably draft Baker Mayfield in the second or third. And I love Baker Mayfield. I think he is brilliant. So they could easily get a mid-round pick and still pick up one of the better quarterbacks. Or even Lamar Jackson, who everyone thinks he's a wide receiver. So yeah, do you know what? I take it back. They might as well win pointless games because Jackson and Mayfield will still be there in the second and third.
And just go back to the Chargers. Gus Bradley, who we talked about a minute ago, he's got the Chargers playing on defense, and the Cowboys better hope that Tyron Smith's back because going up against Joey Bosa might be a good night Cowboys situation if that happens.
If you've got the Chargers defense in fantasy football this weekend, then yeah, that could be a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
So we had a couple of questions coming from our listeners. I'll start with Jordan Risdale. He's an Eagles fan from Hayward. He asks, are the Eagles finally going to win their first Super Bowl?
No. I'm sorry, I'm kind of hoping that they lose, so I'm saying no.
Just in my head, it's could they beat the Patriots? One thing is getting to the Super Bowl. It's another thing then facing the Patriots. And I think the only people that can beat the Patriots at the moment are probably the Jaguars. If the Eagles play the Jaguars, then I think they're probably strong enough all round to beat the Jaguars because I
think that Jaguars defense will shut them down as well.
Yeah, but then the offense against defense. But hypothetical. Who from the NFC could beat the Patriots? Maybe only the Saints. Only the Saints. Just because it'll be Breeze and Sean Payton against, Belichick and Brady. That's almost like the sort of Titanic battle. That's the only one I can see where the NFC might come out on top. So the Eagles might do if they luck out and not face the Patriots in the Super Bowl. But again, come back to the earlier point I made. It's all about home field advantage in the NFC.
In my view, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, anyone but Patriots, so...
Well, I'm not anyone but Eagles, so there you go.
Another question, Graham from Kent, he's a Dolphins fan, and he would love to hear everyone's thoughts on what's gone wrong with the AFC West. What has gone wrong?
I think the defenses have keyed in on some of the Chiefs' offensive trickery. I think that Chiefs defense is all about turnovers, sort of an exploiting moments, but they're not really a lock you down defense. You know, you can always move the ball on the Chiefs, and Bob Sutton. You know, this is not a Broncos or a Jaguars this season type defense. So if the offense isn't getting it done enough, then they become, they're easily beatable. And the Raiders. Okay, so this is my bugbear in the offseason. People were just overrating the Raiders beyond belief. Peter King made the Raiders his second in his power rankings, number 2, purely on the base. And the problem with a lot of people overrating the Raiders were they hadn't watched any of the Raiders or enough of the Raiders that season. So in their head, they were all about Derek Carr, and then he got injured, and then the Raiders fell apart. If Derek Carr could then be fit again next season, they'll be great again. But anyone who'd watched the Raiders knew that they were sort of pulling wins out of the backside a lot of last season. The defense wasn't getting good last season either, but the offense were able to make enough explosive plays in the fourth quarter, and they'd come out on top of a lot of close games. And this season, the defense has regressed, the offensive coordinator's changed, and there's no rhythm on the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line isn't performing as well as it was last season. The running game isn't anywhere near as good. There's been a lot of drops in catches. Derek Carr's not been as good. But I think there's a lot of people. People are constantly looking around for the next quarterback hero, and I think that's what Peter King fell into. He's constantly on the outlook for his next Brett Favre, and suddenly he fell in love with Derek Carr and thought he could be the one. But he's just part of this crop of younger quarterbacks who just need to be coached really well. And at the end of the day, they've got Jack Del Rio as their head coach, and he is an 8-8 head coach. So, I'm not surprised the Raiders are how they are, but they're awful in some areas of their defense, especially the secondary. New England had to get out of second gear in Mexico this week. And then I think the Broncos just, again, a badly coached team. They're really missing Wade Phillips. The defense just isn't at that level that it was. They're falling off a bit. Is Talib a little bit too old now? Are they missing TJ Ward, who they got rid of right at the start of the season? Although Justin Simmons, I think, looks an exceptional player. And obviously that offense has been struggling since Peyton Manning's last season. So, I look at someone like Demaryius Thomas, who ever since that hit that Cam Chancellor put on him in that Super Bowl, he's never quite. People talk about him as if he's a number 1 wide receiver. He's never quite got back to that level that he was in that season. And so I think there's sort of a lot of people looking at each other, and I don't think the spirit's particularly good in Denver. John Elway came out saying that the players had gone soft last week. I don't think that went down very well in the dressing room. And then the Chargers, who I think might be sneaky good and win out potentially, or either sneaking a wild card, or if this division keeps going the way it's going, you can win this division with 9-7.
Yeah, I think the Chargers. If anyone has bad luck, it's the Chargers. The injuries they get is it's like year after year. But I also think they could either win out or lose every single game, and no one would be surprised if either. I'd be like, yeah, that's just what the Chargers do. The Raiders, yeah, I agree. Again, I agree with what you said. The Raiders are an okay team. They have been for quite a while, and while everyone expected them to really kick on this year, it just hasn't happened. The defense is awful. How do you have no pass rush and you have Khalil Mack? Obviously, you can't get a one-person pass rush, but seriously, you're just wasting all of his talent right now. The Broncos, yeah, that team was kind of built on short fields, pick sixes or interceptions, fumbles, and then, Peyton Manning would take advantage of that. And since he's gone, and the defense has stepped down as well.
And they're dropping Von Miller into coverage a lot. Some really strange
you say that
coaching going on there.
But again, I saw this last year with the Dolphins, Vaughn Joseph dropping Cameron Wake and Ndamukong Suh into coverage, and Dolphins fans are like, what are you doing? It's not smart, it's stupid. When you've got pure pass rushers, dropping them into coverage is the dumbest thing you can do. This isn't Madden. You're not tricking anyone. So I'm not saying it's no surprise that this defense has gone backwards when they're doing dumb stuff like that. I missed the team.
Chiefs.
Again, it's the same with the Chiefs. They, some teams just live off short fields, and again, Alex Smith isn't going to, beat you through the air with 40, 50 yards play over and over again. He's going to nickel and dime his way down the field. And when that field is like 30 yards because of an interception, you're more likely to rely on, to get field goals and touchdowns. When he's starting on a 15, he's on 15 and 20, it's not the same. So I think with a lot of these teams, they just need a defense to step up and start doing something.
And then final question, Jets fan Matt Cullen. He asks, given the current form and remaining schedule, do you think the Chargers have a legit shot at the AFC West title after such a poor start?
Yeah, I think I'm looking at, the next few games now, and they've got the Cowboys on Thursday. I reckon they could probably beat them. They've got the Browns next week. Now, even though the Browns beat them last year, I think... See, if the Browns are going to win the game, it could actually be this one, because the Chargers have that kind of luck where they're going to lose a dumb game, and it possibly could be the Browns. Then we've got the Redskins, again, another team who have a habit of losing these really close games. They've got the Chiefs, probably better than the Chargers that game. They've got the Jets. By then, I think the Jets will be dead and buried, like out of the playoff race. No offense. And just looking forward to, the quarterback next year. Then they've got the Raiders. And so, yeah, the Chargers have got way too many close games. They're going to be settled by, probably 3 or less points. And when they can go either way, I wouldn't want to put my house on them winning out.
I think it's Chargers and Chiefs. I think it's between Chargers and Chiefs, that division. Although I am looking forward to when the Chargers host the Raiders, because that stadium is just going to be silver and black and loud. So that's really not going to work in the Chargers' favour. But yeah, Having said all I've said, and just not knowing Andy Reid, I can just imagine the Chiefs will start putting it together a bit, and they'll probably end up winning this division. And then it's whether the Chargers can sneak in a wild card, and they'll be up against the Ravens and Texans, maybe. Oh, Titans. Jaguars. Yeah, actually, wild card might be a bit harder, but yeah, I think it's Chiefs first, and then the Chargers are fighting for a wild card spot.
So a bit of more breaking news: the Falcons have cut Jalen Collins, which isn't really surprising, but still news, I guess.
Thanks for that breaking news.
Hey, but breaking news is breaking news. Like, I'm sorry, it's not anything spectacular.
Sort of filter it out a little bit.
So should it be more like lukewarm information as opposed to breaking news? Would that be a better thing? Like, I have information to give.
Not so much breaking, just sort of like news.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or like mildly hurt. You haven't broken anything. You kind of mildly hurt yourself.
Tap on the window news.
Yeah. There you go, Liz.
Maybe
Tap on the window news.
Or we just call it Cool Story Bro, Tell Me Again.
The news wasn't that bad. Jeez.
So,
no, do you know what?
Go on, what?
The Patriots will probably pick up Jalen Collins, and he'll get the game-winning interception when Carson Wentz throws deep to Alshon Jeffrey, and the Patriots win. There you go. Calling it now.
Exclusive.
Yeah. God, I'm really bitter. Sorry.
Right, so before we end, just wanted to put a quick reminder out to our listeners. Don't forget to leave us a review via iTunes or Spreaker, and tweet us a screenshot of this so we can enter you into our prize draw. If you tweet it to @99yards, the winner along with the prize will be announced on Friday, the 1st of December. And that's it from us on 99 Yards this week. If there's something you'd love us to discuss on a future podcast, send us a tweet. In the meantime, thanks for listening.